watching No Mercy TV. Yeah, son.
NoMercyTV Podcast, here with Jesse Rican. We have a special guest in the building.
What up? It's your boy, F.U.D.G.E, F.U.D.G.E, funny, unique, devoted gentleman, entertainer.
Okay, so Jesse, you're the one that, set this up. Explain your history and your background with him and everything.
Yeah, this is my boy, John. I know him as John, but it's F.U.D.G.E the comedian on YouTube.
You're allowed to use your real name, right?
John K. Rickenbacker Jr. is the acting name.
Okay, you don't got no warrants or nothing?
No warrants.
No police looking for you?
Just a marriage license, that's good. Good.
All right, but yeah, Jesse.
Yeah, so this is my boy, man. So we went to Nassau together. We did a play together. Freaking. And then one day I'm watching BET. I see this guy on there with his cousins. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's on BET. So then I see him on MTV's Yo Mama. And then we found each other on Twitter somehow. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Yo, I seen you do your thing on Your Mama. He's like, yo, that's crazy. You do Battle Rap Arena. I watch Battle Rap, right? And then he was like, I'll be watching Spec all the time.
Yeah.
Then recently I saw him on Crashing, with another HBO comedy show by Judd Apatow.
Yeah,
Pete Holmes was the host. So, and he played a pretty decent part in there too. Like, he had 2 episodes. And even did a little stand-up there too, right?
Yeah, man.
So I told him, yo, you want to come on this No Mercy podcast? He said, yeah, let's go. When and where? Then I told him when and where, and he said, I can't make it. So then
that's the Hollywood talk. That's the Hollywood.
So then we rescheduled it.
The next day I made it. That's what it is.
Yeah, man, it's nice seeing you too, man. We were sharing memories too back in the day.
Yeah.
But good seeing you, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank God for having me.
Definitely, no problem, man. Not a problem.
All right, see y'all later. No, I'm joking.
Everybody bail on us. You don't even start yet. Like, God damn.
That would be funny as hell as we left. We just started a whole nother segment.
He's about to give us a surf interview. I surf rap for 30 seconds and then Jersey.
So me would be Amityville.
Damn, Amityville. Y'all from, damn.
Mentally from Amityville.
Yeah.
Is that whole thing, like, real?
Yeah, for the most part, I guess. I mean, Amityville was fun, man. I love growing up in Amityville.
No, he meant the Amityville.
No, I know. They had cookouts over there and everything. It was great.
That's one of the places I didn't think black people lived. Like,
we was all up in there. There was the north side and then the south side.
It's a hood out there?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Isn't Amityville mostly black?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, south side with a ghost star. That's where the white people are. White people with a ghost star.
Wow. That's just a piece of information for me because I didn't know that.
You gotta forgive him. He's from Harlem.
Yeah, I did certain places that I'll be like, yo, I don't think black people was from there. But when I got into battle rap, that's where I learned, like, Hempstead and all those different places. Like, I didn't think. Yeah, I know.
Oh, you mad because I'm styling though.
That was my boy. I did a battle on his league.
Did you
Jay? Yeah, I kind of did.
Act up, you have to lay down.
That's a little story.
Sleep.
Oh, somebody else got punched on his league.
Oh, yeah.
Mike P.
I was hosting that battle.
You was. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I hosted the Mike P battle.
Sheesh.
What, the dude Haitian?
No, Mike P, the white guy.
No, who punched him? What was he?
Oh yeah, it was a Haitian guy. Yeah,
his name was Haitian. I think.
No, it wasn't on URL. It was on the ENJ dude.
Okay, I remember
it was on Major Moves DVD.
Yeah, I remember seeing that battle. The punch was mad soft.
Yeah, it was.
In the building, it was super soft. But the funny part about it was the late reaction Mike P did. This dude was like a mile away, and Mike P said, "Where's he at? Where's he at?" So I'm standing there like, he's the cab halfway home.
But you know what's crazy? I know we're going back into our old Nassau days, but he actually worked at Costco with Danny.
The dude who stuffed Mike P.
Yeah. No. Our boy from Nassau worked at Costco with Mike P.
Oh,
yeah,
wow. That's what's up.
Yeah, he is famous for that whole Costco thing. He was actually, I think he was on the radio or something, and somebody shouted him out like, "Yeah, Mike from Costco helped me bag my groceries or something like that. I forgot what it was, but I was like, God damn.
These good people though. But let's get into your career before we get to battle rap. So, I know you from Nassau.
Mm-hmm.
You do a BET show where Little JJ is found, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the BET show, it didn't go over too well for you.
Mm-hmm.
With your cousin. Your cousin's still doing it? That was your two cousins you did it with, right?
Well, they were childhood friends of mine, Adrian McCready and Nigel Fulton, who actually is a comedian now. He was in he played Bismarck and Roxanne on Netflix.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so he's doing good, but that whole thing was a setup, man. Coming to the Stage was the name of the show. We were kind of raw as far as comedy. We were a sketch comedy group in churches. So right off the bat, we were there with a whole bunch of stand-up comedians. So right off the bat, we were at a disadvantage. What ended up happening was it was set up for, like a coming out party for Little JJ.
Okay.
Which is cool because they wanted the people to watch it. Yeah. Actually, some great comedians was on the show. It was one of those things where we got to go on TV and got to realize, like, there's more to this. And so at the time, the other two guys that I was with, they wasn't feeling it because of how it went down. But I felt like I could do it. I got a taste of it, so I was like, man, I'm going to do this. Okay. And so that's why I stuck with it. And then, I started doing stand-up on my own. And that's when stuff started, happening around 2004.
So now stand-up is kind of like in boxing also. You need to build your own fan base, right?
Facts.
You have to sell a certain amount of tickets. Battle raps will be like that in a way too.
In a sense.
What was the requirement? Was it hard for you to ask, yo, can you come check me out? Did you have to hustle your ticket sales too?
Well, the thing about it, especially for going from Long Island, people say, like, if you want to be a comedian in New York, you got to come out here to the city. But what is hard is, especially in you in college, you you're not making that much bread, and usually your friends aren't either. So to get them to take a Long Island Railroad plus a subway and play $15 for the show plus a 2-drink minimum for you to get 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That junk was discouraging. So it wasn't until, like, I almost gave up completely, but it wasn't until actually on that same audition for Coming to the Stage, like years later, this girl named G.L. Douglas, she was real nervous on the line. We were behind her, and this was for the season 2. And so we were just being nice to her, encouraging her or whatever. So what ended up happening was she introduced me. She actually got put on by Alonzo Hamburger Jones, who was like a Def Jam legend.
Hamburger.
So she vouched for me. Like, we went on a 3-way. That's how old it was, 3-way.
Sheesh.
And she was like, yeah, this guy is real funny. Can you put him on? So I had my parents actually drove me to, it was Irvington, New Jersey.
Okay. Irvington, yeah.
Yeah, and it was at this like freaking, like an art gallery. And I got to perform in front of Hamburger, and that's how I actually got my start. And
that's what's up.
I met my mentor. He actually became my mentor, as well as Sean Sarvis, who was actually a Christian comedian, and he actually got me my first professional show in 2004, and then I've been working ever since.
I gotta show you a YouTube clip of Howard Stern there interviewing Norm Macdonald,
Oh, yeah.
and they're talking about hamburger. They're like,
Yeah.
there's really a guy. He would say every joke and say hamburger.
But and he still works, and he's still like, he's one of the guys. He taught me how to write jokes. He gave me like the history about comedy, and not a lot of OGs do that.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to get with somebody that was 20 years in the game at the time. Like now he's like over 40 now. But
Wow.
He actually, because he came in the game with Bernie Mac, Chris Tucker, JB Smoove, like all these guys that are big time. Like they stayed on his couch, like Uptown Comedy Club. I don't know if you remember that, when Tracy Morgan got his start.
Yeah.
That was like before Mad TV and all that stuff used to come on.
Okay.
And he actually showed how they got onto Def Jam. Like he had old tapes, old pictures.
Wow.
So let me ask you something. The generation gap as far as comedy goes, is it similar to how like hip hop is as far as like the OGs don't really mess with the young dudes? Like, is it really that prevalent in comedy?
Excuse me. This weather's killing me. The OGs now, like it was like that back in the day.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Good.
It was like that back in the day, but what ended up happening was now a lot of the young comedians who are blowing up on social media are getting a lot more opportunities.
Okay.
So now the older heads are like using that opportunity to, get in and start writing for those guys or help them to do, to get their demographic.
So they kind of see it as a meal ticket,
Yeah.
in a sense, for themselves. Okay.
Exactly. So you see a lot of those guys, like a Major Hype or like just anybody you see that's prevalent on social media, they get a lot of the old heads is like, yo, they want to try to get on the bandwagon, or if there's a young comic that is doing well, they want to latch on to them. You know what I'm saying?
There is something I want to touch on too, though. You're a religious comedian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your religion, your churches.
Yeah, I call myself now I'm a Christian crossover comedian. So what that means is I started off in the church. That's what I grew up in. My mom's a pastor. That's not going to change no matter where I'm at. So, I'm not shy about it. I talk about it. And but when I say Christian crossover, meaning I am a Christian who is a comic, and I actually talk about real life issues. So I talk about everything. So because whether I'm Christian or not, I still go through stuff as a man. So
yeah.
So by being crossover, like now you see me on HBO shows, you see me on BET, you see me on MTV. But I maintain a sense of, integrity. I don't curse in my set. I tip the tightrope, which is a art for me. It's fun, makes it fun. So yeah, I hold that dear to my heart. But yeah.
How hard is it to do what you do and not be as like raunchy and just have the same foul language that everybody else has? Like, is it easy for you to do that?
Yeah, it's easy for me because I grew up with it. It wasn't something that excuse me, that I had to do. It was just something like my dad, who's like the funniest guy I know. He's not a comedian though, but he was just like, I don't curse and you see how I'm funny. Okay. So that was more what it was. It was an ode to him. And, and I have a lot of, I love doing stuff for, excuse me, children. I'm getting over cold. Children, doing stuff for children, comics, comedy for them, and teaching and stuff like that. So I want to be clean, so just in case if they stumble on something and be like, dang, I can't watch this,
Okay.
So I just try, it's like one of those things, and it sets me apart.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, everybody, because like for instance, there was a show I did, everybody was cussing, suck this, eat this, I'm doing this, sucking on this, what you doing, look at that. And I came and did my set, people didn't realize I didn't curse. Okay. But they remember everything that I said, until somebody was like, you even cursed the whole time. And it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm just going to be like the squeaky clean guy. It's just, I didn't find the need to.
Okay. That's one of those things that, like, you have to be really good at what you do for people to not notice it until after. Yeah. Like, if you're doing the set and you're not cursing, like, me, I would notice it. But if you're funny, I'm not even going to be focused on that. I'm just going to, focus on how good the content is. You understand? So.
Yeah, that's dope. I want, in the same token, I wanted to ask you like another question. Like, one of my favorite comedians is Doug Stanhope, and I know like you comedians have like a family together, right? Mm-hmm. So would you be able to see a Doug Stanhope atheist making fun of religion and still laugh, or nah? Like, you just can't be in that sense.
Nah, it's funny. Is funny. If you are proving a point, your views. Excuse me. I hope y'all got to edit this though. Try to do it like in pause, yeah. There's no mercy in this room. It's hot. Well,
it is kind of hot in here too.
Yeah, to answer your question. I've done shows where comedians will talk about being atheists and stuff like that. Doesn't bother me. What you believe is what you believe. It's free will. I know my spirituality and why I believe what I believe. Okay. If you're funny, you're funny. If you're just doing it just to do it and it's not funny, then then that's whack. You're not doing what you're doing as a comedian. Mm-hmm. But comedian is art. Comedy is art. George Carlin talked about his views. Even P. Holmes. Like, P. Holmes changed his beliefs as far as his beliefs are different from what he grew up with as an Episcopalian. Now he's more of a broader thinker or whatever. Okay. Maybe some people consider him an atheist or whatever. But what ended up happening was he made sure that he showed Christian comedy not in a negative light, but in the way that it was intended because it meant something to him.
Okay.
And so that's why he wanted somebody that was authentic as far as that was concerned and kind of to show both sides of it.
Okay.
So now I want to get into the show because I'm a huge fan of the show Crashing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know first of all, how you got the part, because I thought it was great. So now, the people that don't understand, that didn't watch it, I'll do a quick cliff note on you. Pete Holmes gets this gig touring religious gigs. His paycheck is not true, by the way, right?
What?
$1,000 a church show.
Bro, we can break.
Wow.
That's why it took me so long to get mainstream, because it was like I had to find where I was. But people didn't know me in the clubs.
When I heard that price, I was like, oh, so Pete Holmes says he makes $1,000 on the show for a church, and he was playing churches on this Christian tour. So then him and John hook up. Actually, they use your name John instead of Fudge.
Yeah, that was actually a funny story. I'll tell you the story once you finish what you go after. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, okay, so then that they meet each other on this Christian tour, and you know, Fudge is on there, he becomes friends with Pete Holmes. So I also wanted to ask, like, how did you get that part, and your relationship with Pete Holmes? Did it grow any? Did you get to know him any?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that was pretty much it.
Yeah, shout out to Pete Holmes. He's the most awesome guy. As my first actual television reality based show, he made that so seamless. Actually, the part was written for Sandy. The guy's name was supposed to be Sandy. So when I auditioned, I'm sorry. But when I auditioned, I wrote my jokes as if my name was Sandy. I kind of did my same bit, but instead of Fudge, I kind of made it like an acronym, because it was like, how I'm going to be a black man named named Sandy, and make it make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when I auditioned, they liked it. And so, I got the call to do it. I wrote my own, because I had to do a minute of material, and I had to do the lines. The lady liked it. Then when I got on set, we were doing a walkthrough, and Pete introduced himself. It was that scene. That's when I first met him for real. Excuse me. And
Jesse, if you don't leave that,
and so
even more sick.
Yeah. And what ended up happening was he was like, "Yo, what's your real name?" And I said, "John." And so he was like, "You want to use your real name?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well," I said, "My comedy name is Fudge." And so he was like, "All right, well, introduce yourself to me like how you would do anybody else." And so that was like an authentic take.
Oh, that's what's
So I'm introducing myself to him. And the scene is way longer than because it's only a half-hour show, but
right.
Me and him improv, that made him bust out laughing a few times. And, that gave me the kind of all right, yeah, I made it as an actor.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, I did a commercial for Credit Karma that's currently running now. I don't know if y'all know about that.
No, I didn't see it.
It's a guy that's flipping pancakes. Excuse me. It's a guy that's flipping pancakes. And he's, his wife is trying to check the credit score because they want to get a new house. And I'm jumping across in slow motion to try to get her to not do the phone.
Oh, I think that's something.
Yeah, I had to see it. Been playing since for a whole year and some change.
I gotta look for that, because I use Credit Karma like a motherfucker.
Yeah, y'all seen that commercial. So it's so I've been, this has been a good couple years as far as me moving to that next level as a comedian and an entertainer. So yeah, but Pete definitely gave me a shot. We still keep in contact. He even in his busy schedule, he still text me back and stuff like that, and let me know how he liked the show and stuff like that. I let him know how I thought about the show. And, his family was great. His wife, everything. He just had a baby girl. He got a book coming out. This dude is making moves. And shout out to Judd Apatow and Madeline Wise, who actually plays Kat on the show. Mm-hmm. She's actually from Brooklyn, and she's dope too. And yeah, man, everybody on there is dope.
What's up, man? Mark, anything else? Oh, well, how did you get the name Fudge?
Well, just like the show, it actually means funny, unique, devoted, gentleman, entertainer. Before I made it to Nassau, I had that name. So it was about my junior year of high school, and we were on this bus tour to go to colleges, like an Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Mm-hmm. So we were doing the battle of the buses, and I needed a name. I wanted to do comedy. So I was like, man, because I was a little bigger. excuse me, and I was a little bigger, and I was like, man, I want to be a, I need to have like a name, I was like, I couldn't be Chocolate, because it was a comedian named Chocolate already.
Okay.
Plus, that's a little generic.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then I couldn't be Pudding, because that's mad soft. So I said Fudge. So then I was like, all right, then people gonna be like Fudge Packer, because my last name is Rickenback and all that stuff. So then I was like, I had to make it mean something. And so that's how, excuse me, funny, unique, devoted, gentleman, entertainer came about.
Yeah, you said Pudding talk. So you used to do the funniest Bill Cosby impression, bro. So is it gone? You can't do it?
I don't know, man.
Since he went to jail.
Yo.
He used to have us rolling.
Yeah, that was like the only thing I did.
Okay.
On this Bill Cosby
Let me see if I can do it.
I would like to talk to you about all things that you was talking about and saying that was sticking things in drinks, was fiddling it on your twiddlies when you was in bed. It is not true. That lady is lying. She was fabricating the truth. She was on there with the suit on looking like Michael Jackson, a smooth criminal. I did not touch her. I did not touch her. She said she touched my pudding pop. It's not true.
Yo, that is hilarious. That's very spot on.
You gotta do Elmo.
Like, you got the mannerisms and shit like.
Is your coach making it too hard for Elmo?
Elmo said. Elmo says that I'm gonna show no mercy in that. Straight out of Grouch Land. A crazy little woman named Elmo. You said you want to tickle me? Hell no. That tickles, that.
Even with a cough.
Oh my God.
That's hysterical, man.
Yeah, I gotta do mad takes of me coughing. That's how the coughing breaks.
So Marcy will try to figure that out.
Yeah, we'll just fix it up.
The best we can.
It's gonna be like, man. Yeah, man.
But
But you still get your points across even with the cough anyway.
Yeah.
So.
As far as impersonations go, like, how do you feel about them in comedy? Because I honestly feel like they're not done enough.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, for me personally, Ari Spears was like the king of impersonations. Like,
I love that.
he used to do it.
He still is.
Okay.
I still think.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not discrediting his talent. This dude was awesome. He just was a jerk to us during coming to the stage.
Oh, okay.
Ari Spears was? I get that from him though. He seemed like he could be.
Yeah. I watched his interviews and he seemed like he could.
Yeah, but I mean, but not to take away from his talent, because he's one of the greats as far as like the last of the dying breed, like after Eddie Murphy and stuff like that. But for me personally, my thing was I wanted people to know me as Fudge, because on coming to the stage I was a character. I wasn't me. So over time, it took me a while, up until now actually, that Fudge itself, John K. Rickenbacker Jr. became, I have my own voice.
Okay.
So people know who I am. So I felt that was important, and I throw my impersonations in there, but it's mainly being a jack of all trades, different styles of jokes, one-liners, impersonations, stories, whatever.
Okay.
I try to just give people like an experience.
Okay.
As opposed to just a set.
What would you say is your joke that got maybe the biggest reaction? Or if you wanted to give me two,
I don't know if I wrote it yet, but I can say that a crowd favorite is obviously the Elmo. I have two versions. I have a church version and a club version.
Oh wow!
It's Elmo with his girl, and actually Elmo as a preacher. Yeah. So, but the joke that actually was featured on Crashing was like the joke I was most proud of.
Okay.
because it showed my growth as a writer to me. Some people may have different opinion, but it was about how it kind of showed my level of tying in my spirituality with, you know, my free thinking as an adult. So it was like the joke of that. The joke was pretty much, I hope heaven got Wi-Fi because it had unlimited cloud space. You know what I'm saying? It should have Wi-Fi, and it was like, you know, I really hope heaven got Wi-Fi because I know hell got a lot of hotspots. And so we ain't gonna be worrying about reception down there. It's gonna be hashtag burning, you know. So, you know, that right there showed to me my growth as a writer, because people in church comedy, Christian comedy, don't really, they just talk about what goes on in church sometimes and not really, excuse me, about life and what you go through.
Okay.
Yeah, so I talk about everything. I talk about growing up, my mother in a church, but like our church was a house. Like it was like the room like this big. And, you know, stuff like that, and just really putting, not necessarily my life on blast, but giving people an insight of how I grew up. So it's not just like, oh, this guy just been through something. Like, just he's just a guy. He's not like, just, you know, he's a guy like everybody else.
Yeah, we all human. We all go through, you know, different experiences and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
People think because you come from one walk of life that it's just like, that's all you deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, you got some people who go to church, but they might only dabble in church on Sundays, and, you know, outside of that, they have like a whole other 6 days that regular life goes on.
Or some cats just be going to church just for a title and or whatever, and then they doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They know better. So it's like, that doesn't define you. Being in church doesn't define you.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of my buddies tapping in battle rap. The Saga goes through that on a regular basis, and we have conversations about it because people automatically assume just because he, you know, professes his faith, that he can't say certain things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he, you know, took that Sensei Saga moniker and just like, you know, I don't care what y'all say, because people do that because they're afraid, because they can't do what you can do.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, I can go to a comedy club and do what they do, but they can't do what I do.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So that's more along the lines why, like you, we were talking off camera about, do you think Saga's the best? It's not that. It's just that
I don't
feel
think he's the best.
No.
I just want to clear that up.
But I big up my man, and you know, and what the Four Horsemen are doing, because they're showing that they are good. Like they're really good, and they're beating a lot of cats. So you can't use their faith against them, because you actually have to rap.
Yeah.
You know, like me, you gonna think you're gonna get on stage before me, and you think you're gonna kill. When I get up there, you still gotta be funny.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Cause you still gotta follow me. Cause whether you think I can't talk about something or your thing is different than mine, you still gotta make them laugh. So